Still One Up Gaming, still me, David. Still episode 357, and we've still got Meg with us.
Okay.
So we're just going to go through this week's news. I normally record I've got like my little tablet and I record the screen on this while I talk over it. So I guess I'll talk about the news with you and you can comment on the stuff.
Yeah.
So the first bit of news that we have is the Biker Grove is getting a reboot, and it's also going to have Ant and Dec feature. I know you're a lot younger than me. When I was a kid, Biker Grove was massive, like proper
Fair.
massive. I don't know if you've seen it or heard of it.
Sorry, I haven't. But that said,
Because
I didn't really watch much Ant and Dec stuff. I watched their stuff on CBBC, I want to say. I don't even think that was them. I'm not sure.
Ant and Dec, that's what they're called now, but 20 odd years ago they were called PJ and Duncan, because that's where they had like 90s hits, like music. They were actually singers, and they also starred, I think they were like 15 or 16 in, it was like imagine EastEnders or something like that, but set in a school, and that was what Biker Grove was. So it was like a high
Uh,
school soap opera thingy with characters, and there was some serious sort of like storylines. There was one where one of the children like overdosed on drugs and stuff, and it really was quite a hard hitting sort of series. Now I'm going to sound horrible because I am from the north of England, and it was set in Newcastle's Biker Grove,
mm-hmm.
and I never watched it. I was too busy watching Transformers and
Yeah.
all these old like Hero Turtles, or as the Americans call it, Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I've got a friend who absolutely loves Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
I yeah, I was always more of a Power Rangers fan.
I love the intro, the music.
Yeah, no, I can see why. Yeah, it's good music.
But yeah, so the BBC are going back and they're doing this as a reboot. Now, I wonder if they would, as I would like to say, Disneyfy it and make it very, very child friendly now. They get rid of all the hard edges and just really,
Yeah,
because
I
I think
mean,
nowadays there's too many people that complain over anything.
to be fair, like I've been thinking this a lot actually with Doctor Who because Disney own part of Doctor Who now in
Mm.
America, and they've actually interfered with one of the plot lines. I can't remember what it was, um, but no, they've said not to do something. But yeah, no, I can imagine if it was just straight BBC, I imagine they wouldn't like not. Whoops, sorry. I imagine they wouldn't um change things too much, but if it's something they're doing in conjunction with Disney, I imagine they could potentially make it more appealing to an international audience is the polite way of putting it. So by which our politics in the UK is so much more we're much more prepared to say what something is than people are in America, but that is because our uh we're very lucky we have a multi-party system. And ergo we can be a bit more like that sounds a bit dodgy.
So, next bit of news: The Walking Dead Rick and Michonne spin-off. They've confirmed it, and it's got a new title and like logo. Which, reading that news, it sounds as though it's gonna be called The Walking Dead something. But looking at this news story, it is just called The Walking Dead Rick and Michonne. So it's like, all right. So they've just officially announced that is what it's called.
Oh, well, yeah. I never I've watched The Walking Dead. I've watched like one scene because it had a song I liked in it.
I love The Walking Dead. Well, I say I love The Walking Dead. I loved the first season of The Walking Dead. The second season, I think because of the writers' strike at the time, I think they just recorded what they could and didn't change anything, and it was just a
Yeah.
disaster of a season. And then
Mm.
the third season was really good. And then after that, it's not been great. It's had the good episode here and there.
Hmm.
But because I was already 5 years into it at that time, I thought, oh, I might as well just watch it now. And I've just managed to finish the season now because it finished last year, I think.
Hmm.
And I've just like watched them on TV, and I was actually quite. I liked how they ended it. It was a nice ending.
Hmm.
But now they've got like 4 or 5 spin-off series coming with like 4 or 5 of the main characters. They're all doing their own spin-off show.
Mm.
Um, so I guess we'll have to wait and see how some of these come about. But I do think that The Walking Dead. I don't know if it was because of the pandemic, but the second from last season basically got cut because I couldn't finish the actual FX sort of like because they weren't allowed to go into the office to finish the actual editing of the actual thing.
Hmm.
And I just think that because of what happened, there was like a year's delay, and then when they came back, they didn't do a new season. They just added 6 or 8 episodes to the end of that season. And
Mm.
because of the new COVID rules, it focused on individual characters because they were allowed to have loads of people together.
Yeah.
So it was like individual stories going back in time to explain people's how they got to where they were. But it was just like long-winded stories that no one needed to know.
Fair. No, I can imagine that must be difficult for stuff like Walking Dead. Yeah.
And then when they got into the new season, it was just rushed to get to the end of the season because they were going to have 3 movies at the cinemas
Hmm.
featuring like Rick and Michonne because they went out
Hmm.
of the Walking Dead at the end of season 9, I think it was, and then they were going to come back with a movie and then a season, then a movie and a season, and then finish it with another movie. But then the
Yeah.
pandemic happened, and the movies never happened, and it's just weirdly sort of like just pushed together to try and get it all finished. So, but the last 5 or 6 episodes, it really was quite gripping and quite good how it actually followed and flowed. And I liked. I mean, I'll try and watch some of the Walking Dead spin-offs and see how they go, but I don't know. So the next bit of news, how do you pronounce this?
Mhm. How do you spell it?
Diadalic Entertainment is ending internal development. So their work on the new Lord of the Rings game has been halted. So their last official game is the Lord of the Rings Gollum, and they're laying off
Okay.
5 staff.
Oh, that's not great.
But I will say their last game that they made, if that's Gollum, it's a shit way to end the company because that game is atrocious.
Yeah, I haven't played it, so I can't comment.
But I mean, if I was to tell you, oh, we've got the Lord of the Rings license, what should we do? Oh, we'll make a game focused on a character that can't fight, can't have any combat, and he's just trying to hide from characters through the whole game, and it's just not very good.
Depends on like how you did it. If you did it like a like a horror kind of game, it could work.
No, no, they didn't. They just took the worst bits of the Batman Arkham games, of the stealthy sort of, and it's basically like a action platformer without any action.
I mean, I like those parts of the Arkham game, so I'm not gonna comment. But no, I can see why that might be. I think I can see what the issue would be. Yeah, I'd have to play the. I'm very nervous about like saying too much because I haven't played the game, so I don't really
Yeah.
want to.
Mm.
Yeah.
But no, it's I wasn't impressed. I'll put it that way.
Hmm.
This bit of news that I was gonna get. Oh, there we go. I was gonna say it's not loading, but it has loaded now. So the next bit of news, I don't know if you've heard this, but Ubisoft is reportedly working on an Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remake.
Just remake the original first before that, because like you can. Assassin's Creed Black Flag is already on the Switch. Like that, you don't need a remake for the Xbox. What it came out for the Xbox One, not like the Xbox 360.
But it's like I
Sorry.
don't know if you know, but the it's rumored that Ubisoft Singapore is heavily involved in the game's development, and they're the studio that's actually making Skull and Bones. So Skull and Bones was meant to be a DLC add-on for Black Flag, and then it spun off to make its own game. And now that's been delayed 6 times. And the studio making Skull and Bones are actually now making a remake of the game that was originally the original game for their game.
Hmm.
And it's just, I don't know what the hell's going on. It's an absolute mess. So, do you reckon Skull and Bones is going to come with a free game, which will be the remake of Assassin's Creed 4 to
I
try
don't
and
think it'll
help
be
it
a
sell?
free game. I
You
don't
know,
think it'll be a free game.
it's just
It'll
going to
end
be
up,
weird.
yeah.
But I mean, I quite enjoyed Black Flag. I thought it was quite a decent game.
Yeah, I like Black Flag. Honestly, I like the Assassin's Creed franchise. Um,
Skull and Bones, I think it's gonna come out and just die.
I don't mind Skull and Bones like if the Skull and Bones is the pirate game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Skull and Bones. I've played a bit of it. I enjoy it, but I think it's needs to be divorced from the Assassin's Creed stuff. If you have it as its own separate IP, I think it could. There is enough interest in pirates that it could hold its own. That could hold it up, but it would need to be marketed with a lot of, "Hey, this is pirates. This is for the pirates fans."
Mm.
Yeah, which is kind of a little bit difficult these days, I'm aware, but occasionally, like, there has been like a less with video games, more with movies, but there's been like, we are definitely getting to a point now where people are getting a bit fed up with franchises. I have noticed. Or like IP from stuff like, like, people are a bit fed up of established IP, but then something new comes out and people are like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. It's a catch-22.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I just think that in this day and age, companies are scared to put a lot of money into
Yeah.
a brand new franchise.
Hmm.
When I think that's why Microsoft want to buy like Activision, or they
Yeah.
bought Bethesda, because they'd rather
Hmm.
put 150, 200 million in a game that's already a well-known name,
Yeah.
and they're too scared to actually, because I bet they want to do a lot of rare games like
Hmm.
the Perfect Dark sort of stuff, but they probably thought, well, we tried it on the 360 and it didn't sell.
Yeah.
So a lot of people say they want a new Perfect Dark, but we don't want to put a lot of money into it because we probably know it's not going to sell.
Yeah.
So
Um, Weirdly, that reminds me, like, the only new IP I can think of that has come out in a lot of recent years that's done big, but even that's kind of skirted off something else, is Elden Ring.
mm,
But that kind of skirts off George R. Martin's involvement and then Game of Thrones. But even then, that's the only thing I can think of. Like, unless you have, like, even because you can't even promise having a big name involved is gonna get you far. Like Hideo Kojima's game that I can't think of, the one
Death
with the
Stranding.
babies. Yeah, that one. That didn't really do much at all. That kind of
I
just barely
really like
flopped.
that game.
Sorry. It's a very pretty game.
Yeah, I was really in awe with how the game. again, it's not how the game played. I think it was the story and how weird it was. I
Mm,
was quite interested to see how things progressed.
yeah,
So I think because they're doing a movie, and I think I'd be more interested in the movie rather than the sequel.
yeah.
Because I love how games can be like completely batshit crazy, and they can have random elements just popping out of nowhere.
Hmm.
But again, I'd rather watch a 2 hour movie than play like a 60-hour game.
Depends on the franchise. I have to admit, I watched the Uncharted movie and I watched the Assassin's Creed movie. I'd prefer to be sitting there playing Uncharted and Assassin's Creed. I'm not gonna lie,
But
both
then
of
I
those.
think you've picked two bad movies because the movies themselves weren't very good.
Yeah, I will admit I haven't seen it yet, but from everything I've seen from it, the Super Mario movie is the type of film that I prefer to watch over playing the game. Because Mario,
I quite enjoyed the movie.
it's a lot. Yeah.
It's got bad pun after bad pun after bad pun, and
Oh,
my 5-year-old brain is just like sat there giggling.
yeah. I like bad puns. I also know there's lots of references to the old stuff, and it has one of the my favorite tropes, so I'm kind of down for that.
So the next bit of news, which I didn't even know this was a thing, but and I'll apologize again. I'm a bloody Yorkshire Englishman, so I can't pronounce people's names. Daniel Kaluuya's Barney movie is going to be surrealistic and for adults. So
That
he's saying that the new Barney movie is going to be based for adults. It's not R rated, but it's going to be based and made for the 30 something who grew up with Barney. And I know Barney's
um
American because I don't know even know. I've never watched Barney in my life.
yeah, Daniel Kaluuya is the guy behind Get Out and Don't Look Up or Up, I think it's called. I can't remember. The other one is yeah, he does and Us. Like he does some pretty good like horror movies. But I definitely remember watching Barney as a kid. It's interesting they've got a horror guy who directing it. If I had a nickel for every time I don't know whether Barney is in the public domain, but if I had a nickel for every time a child's like mascot had a horror-ish movie coming out in the next year, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't much, but it's weird this happened twice.
So aren't they doing
Um,
like a Winnie the Pooh horror movie?
yeah, yeah. Oh, you know who's going into the public domain next year?
Pinocchio?
No,
No, no,
dog, Mickey Mouse.
no. I'm sure they'll have like loopholes and stuff where they can get
Well,
him.
it wouldn't surprise me if the Disney lawyers are going to be like, no, you cannot use our darling Mickeyist. But it honestly though, I it wouldn't surprise me. I know that a news guy in America, he's a British guy who lives in America, and uh he is um does this show called Last Week Tonight, and his company HBO have managed to acquire the under the argument of we've had Steamboat Willie in our credits since year one, which is true. You can watch if you watched the if you've been watching the show for 10 years. It's in he's actually in the credits. So what they've done is they've managed to like hire someone to dress up as Mickey, as Steamboat Willie Mickey, and say some fairly outrageous stuff in like, and that was only in like the 10 episodes that they aired before the writer's strike, and it was still fairly funny.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll because it's like Coca-Cola a few years ago was coming into the public domain, and the company who has Coca-Cola was like Breath. It's a B. That's who owned Coca-Cola, and they just changed the whole company to the Coca-Cola company, so no one can use the Coca-Cola name now.
Yeah. I mean, Steamboat Willie Mickey might be still under. Okay, I've got a really funny story to tell you at some point about how buck wild the rights to Mickey is. But at the moment, you can't use him as a logo because his logo rights are protected by Disney because he is the little like I can't I'm not gonna do the whistle because that would not translate well to audio. But like him like doing the little like driving the steamboat and dancing is the logo for Disney movies animation studios.
Hmm.
And it plays at the start of stuff like Frozen, Tangled, Frozen 2. Like if you watch any Disney like animation, like straight from Disney, you'll
So
see him.
the Disney animation studio, not the Pixar animation.
No, not Pixar.
Disney's own in-house
Yeah,
animation teams, yeah.
yeah. It's wild.
But we'll move straight on. So I don't know if you remember, but there was the iconic Game Boy that was blown up in the Gulf War and it was still functional. So it actually was involved in like an attack and it got a bomb and it's been on display in the New York sort of like public display for arts and stuff. They actually
The
come out and saying that Nintendo New York City have said that this display will now be removed from their current sort of like displays. So unfortunately, you won't be able to go to the New York History Museum or wherever it was and see here and half melted Nintendo Game Boy and just seeing that it survived a bomb. So I just think that's quite funny. So have you ever seen the half melted Game Boy?
no, but I can believe how bricky those things are that it survived. It's like that and a Nokia phone would probably survive the apocalypse.
Yes, I remember well, I guess back then they weren't called memes, but it was just a funny thing that on the internet where if you want to kill someone, chuck a Nokia phone at them.
Yeah.
And it was just a brick.
Yeah, the brick.
Yeah.
I remember, yeah, legitimately one thing she used to do in school was like if you had a Nokia brick, you'd throw it at the wall to see if you could damage it. And then like 9 times out of 10, you couldn't.
Mm. So next bit of news, Xbox Game Pass, not value destructive. Like basically PlayStation claimed that Xbox Game Pass is value destructive, but the Football Manager boss has said that they believe that it's not because they've had the last couple of Football Manager games on the Xbox Game Pass and they've seen spikes in the concurrent users because people can just get straight in and play the game.
Yeah.
And they've seen more people viewing the game. Their figures have gone up from like 2 million a year up to 5 million a year just because it's easier to get into the game and it's just there. It's not.
Yeah.
So have you been interested or been watching all these sort of like the Xbox versus the FTC and stuff in America lately?
Not really, no. What's been going on with that?
Well, it's basically because Microsoft tried to buy Activision. The FTC have said that they wanted to have a public discussion in the courts as to why it might be damaging. So this is where Sony have come in and said that why they think it's damaging. But Sony have said that they don't believe exclusives are damaging. So they're
Sony can't come out and say that exclusives damaging. Sitting on Uncharted and The Last of Us and other things. But I do understand why from what you've just said, the FTC would be getting involved. Would be because in America they have a law that a company can't own. You can't have a monopoly on too many companies. Like one company can't have a monopoly on too many companies. Like it can't dominate out the market. And Bethesda is a big enough company that you could make an argument for gaming that they would dominate the market. So yeah, I could see why they would get involved. I'm not sure whether they're gonna win,
Mm.
but if it's a hearing regarding it, I'm sure it will. We'll just have to see what the judge rules.
But I mean, I don't know because like a lot of people are going on about Xbox can't make their own stuff and Sony make their own exclusives and all this.
Mm.
But the funny thing is, Uncharted, they weren't an exclusive company to start with. They just got bought
Yeah, Naughty Dog got bought by
because they
Sony.
were
Yes.
they were Universal, and then Sony bought them.
No, I think they were independent. Naughty Dog was independent.
Yeah, they just had a deal with Universal, and that's why Crash Bandicoot was through Universal. And then when Universal got bought by Activision, they got the license for Crash Bandicoot,
Mm.
and then it's the same for the guys who made Spider-Man because
Yeah, Insomnia.
they
Oh,
were
Insomniac.
independent because they made
Yeah.
that game with zombies for the PS1 for the Xbox One. I can't remember what it's called now, but they made an Xbox One game.
Left for Dead?
No, it was very much like Spider-Man, like an open world, run around, grindy.
Is it Infamous?
No, I can't remember.
Nope.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
they bought them and they've got them making exclusive games now. So I think a lot of the Sony stuff and with this FTC sort of reviews, it's come out that Sony have spent $200 million on like the development costs for Left 4 Dead Part 2.
I mean, Last
Um,
of Us Part 2.
and the oh god, what was it? The Horizon, the sequel to Horizon.
Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, they spent I think it was 200 million on that and 220 million on the other one. And they also came about saying that the reason why Final Fantasy 16 is a PlayStation exclusive because they had internal emails with Square Enix and the PlayStation boss basically said, "How many copies did you sell of Final Fantasy 15 on the Xbox? We will just pay you how much $1 million that cost
Yeah.
to cover the cost of you not releasing it on the Xbox."
Yeah.
So basically, all those emails have come out because the FTC were like, "How come certain exclusives are allowed and certain exclusives PlayStation is saying is damaging to the industry?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it basically comes out that PlayStation are very two-faced and they'll do whatever they can to try and make other things look
Yeah.
worse than what they actually are, just because they don't want to lose Call of Duty.
Mm. Or any of their exclusives, really.
Yeah. So the last bit of news that I've got here, again, I never knew nothing about, but J.J. Abrams is making a
Mm.
movie of Hot Wheels. So it's going to
Okay.
be emotional and grounded and gritty.
So expect lots of lens flares.
Yeah, so Mattel, so the toy company, they basically revealed some details in a short video about the upcoming Hot Wheels movie. For a long time, we were talking to Mattel about Hot Wheels. We couldn't quite find that thing that clicked to make it worthy of what Hot Wheels deserved. Then we came up with something emotional, grounded, and gritty. I'm just at a gas in how I don't even know how the hell this is going to work as a
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, not only that, J.J. Abrams is, I think he's the guy who does the, oh, there's a mystery in the box, a mystery box, and you don't know what's inside it. And that's how you keep them hooked. And I'm like, I think I might be mixing up people. No, I'm fairly certain that's J.J. Abrams. And it's like, yeah, that really backfired with you really badly with the Star Wars movies.
Well, it's like he did the reboots of the Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually really well done.
Yeah, I
And
like them
he
as well.
also did the found footage monster attack in New York.
Cloverfield.
Yeah, he did that one. That was quite good. And then he did the Star Wars. But I think by the
Yeah.
time he went into Star Wars, I think a lot of the fans were jaded by the Star Wars being a new movie every year.
No, he was the one. He did The Force Awakens, which is considered out of the sequels the best of the sequel trilogy.
Hmm.
But then he also stepped back in to do Episode 9 to basically clear up the mess that was Episode 8. But the problem was there was no like continuity director or anything on that series. The other series that, yeah, he also worked on Lost. If you ever
Hmm.
watched that, didn't.
I watched a couple of episodes, but I didn't. I was just lost with the plot.
Yeah, should be weird. The Mattel Hot Wheels J.J. Abrams movie.
Yeah, I just, I literally just don't understand how that can be a movie
Mm-hmm.
unless they're going to go down the route of like the Lego movie where it's the cars are kind of semi-real and it turns out that it's just kids playing it with the cars.
I don't know. I think it depends on how the Barbie movie is because that's also Mattel.
Do you know what? And I think that's, oh, where did I read? I read somewhere that the trailer got banned. Was it Germany? It was like sexual reference or something stupid in the trailer or something got banned. I was reading something
Mm.
the other day because I was quite shocked that there's a Barbie movie.
Oh, it's. I'm looking forward to it. It looks so stupid in the greatest way possible.
Oh God, what the hell
Mm-hmm.
are we doing in life anymore?
I don't know.
Right, so that's the news. Nothing important
Mm-hmm.
this week.
Yeah,
We'll finish
nothing
on Barbie.
groundbreaking. Yeah.
So we'll have a quick break and we'll be back with the UK Top 40 and our goodbyes.